Effectively securing your organization and its reputation requires a smarter approach. To maximize efficiency and minimize risk, security experts turn to Logarithm, the only leading solution built solely for security teams by a security team committed to your success. With next-gen SIEM, user and entity behavior analytics, network traffic and behavior analysis, security automation and orchestration, and compliance, Logarithm provides security made smarter. How much confidence do you have in your security program? TrustedSec is a global information security consulting firm created by Dave Kennedy with some of the industry's most respected professionals. Their team works collaboratively with your company to improve security regardless of its current maturity level. TrustedSec offers an ever-growing list of customized services including red and purple teaming, software and hardware security, incident response, PCI, and risk and maturity assessments. You can visit trustedsec.com/security weekly to learn how TrustedSec can become an extension of your team.
Welcome back to Business Security Weekly. I am your host, Matt Alderman, joined by Paul Asadorian. How much confidence do you have in your security program? TrustedSec is a global information security consulting firm created by David Kennedy with some of the industry's most respected professionals. Their team works collaboratively with your company to improve security regardless of its current maturity level. TrustedSec offers an ever-growing list of customized services, including red and purple teaming, software and hardware security, incident response, PCI, and risk and maturity assessments. Go to trustedsec.com/security weekly to learn how TrustedSec can become an extension of your team. RSA Conference 2019 is the place to be for the latest in cybersecurity data, innovation, and thought leadership. From March 4th to 8th, San Francisco will come alive with cybersecurity's brightest minds as they gather together to discuss the industry's newest developments. Go to rsaconference.com/security weekly-US19 to register now using the discount code 5U9SWFD to receive $100 off your full conference pass. Security Weekly will be in Broadcast Alley on Monday and Tuesday of RSA Conference 2019, recording both sponsored interviews and hosting briefings. More information will come soon. All right, Paul, let's dig into the leadership articles and communication articles for this week.
Let's do it.
All right, so I wanted to start with this first article. The article is titled, "Really Successful People Say No to Almost Everything." And this is actually kind of an interview with one of the authors of a book on Warren Buffett. And it highlights some very interesting things for leaders when it comes to how to be successful in a leadership position. Warren Buffett he breaks the mold, I think, and when we think about people who just have been super successful. But when I read through some of these tips, you're going to be amazed at how he does it. I thought it was so interesting to read this article. He really, it's all about focus for him. And the first thing he says is kill all busy work. And it talks about his goal alignment strategy. He'll put up a list of 25 goals. He'll circle the 5 most important, and he'll get rid of the next 20, and he'll never look at them again. And he will focus all of his effort on those 5, and therefore, not addressing any of this other stuff. And it's that focus that has been something he really believes in this kind of, where do I focus my activities? Which I thought was really interesting. I don't know that I could come up with 25 goals, Paul.
Yeah, it's hard.
I think that's hard.
Yeah, and because it's hard to come up with an actual true goal. I think if you were brainstorming to come up with 25 goals, you'd probably have a good percentage that were really objectives and not necessarily goals. But to come up with 25 true goals is really hard.
I think it's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And he only focuses on 20%. And the article goes on and says, by focusing on that 20%, 80% of your results will come. And so that 80-20 rule applies in that particular case. Strategy number 2, I love this one because I'm a big believer in this. Only work with people you can see yourself working with forever.
Yeah,
it's about the
good
people.
One. Mm-hmm.
I love this one. And, I've left a lot of roles because of sometimes the people. If you trust someone, you've worked with them for years, you'd work with them again, there's somebody to work with. And,
Oh,
I
thanks,
think,
Matt. That's
yeah, see, this is how we came together in this
right.
lovely relationship. But yes, I mean, and I think this is true. You tend to work better
Hmm.
with people that you trust and want to work with. And Buffett says, look, strategy number 2 is only work with those people. And I think part of this for him is when he buys a company, he pretty much leaves the leadership alone.
Yeah.
So he's buying companies for people that he wants to work with. So he's not making a bunch of changes when he buys one of those companies. He trusts the CEO. He's worked with them before, wants to work with them, and
Right.
he's going to let that company just continue to thrive as is.
Yep. That's awesome. Yeah, and because I
Yeah.
think that message is usually something along the lines of you have to hire smart people and keep them, right? I think what Warren Buffett's bringing in is it's not only got to be that, but it's got to be people that you can see yourself working with forever, which I think is an important point that's typically missed in a lot of these similar articles.
It is. It's one that's very important to me.
Mm.
I want to work with people I plan to work with forever. Strategy number 3, keep things super, super simple. Uh, I think a lot of people know this, right? Warren Buffett still lives in the same house he's lived in for years. It's like $100,000 house in Omaha. He's always lived there. He's the company, Berkshire Hathaway, is one of the largest companies in the world. It has how many? The number of employees that work there is crazy. It's like 24 people in the main company. The other almost 400,000 people are within the subsidiary companies, but
Hmm.
he's kept the overhead of his company very small with a couple dozen people. He's kept things very simple in his lifestyle. That's just his business philosophy. Keep it simple, things will work. And he is a testament to that attitude,
Hmm.
which is good for us because there's only 9 of us. So we're trying to keep it simple
Yeah, that's
over here
right.
at Security
That's
Weekly.
good.
Yeah. McDonald's breakfast every day. That's simple,
It's
especially
better than Dunkin' Donuts, I can tell you. We could do a whole segment having 3 kids and having to deal with breakfast. We've run the gamut, and I would vote for McDonald's. That's works for me.
yeah, it's pretty inexpensive too.
Hmm.
Strategy number 4, focus on a few high quality bets. Can't do everything. Again, it's back to this focus.
Hmm.
Is there are a few high quality bets out there, focus on those, make those work. That'll give your biggest return. You can't do everything in your life and even with your investments. So he focuses there. That also ties into number 5, which is focus on long-term bets. He goes for the long haul. He's not looking for a strategy that's only going to help him in 2019. He's looking for that longer term strategic investment and bet. He's got certain stocks in his portfolio that he's had in his portfolio for tens of years. That's just the way he operates. And I think this is important for people in our space a little bit. We get this tendency to think about the near term, right? We think, okay, endpoint's hot today, and so we jump into endpoint.
Right.
I'm a little broader thinker. When we built the strategy, Paul, back in 2015 for Tenable, I was thinking 2020 and beyond.
Mm.
Where's that market shift going to go? What's the long bets, right? And so that strategy was built on those long bets. Unfortunately, part of that strategy wasn't enacted on because they were looking at the short-term gain, which was
Right.
get ready for IPO and go. And Buffett's like, no, flip that around. Focus on those long-term bets because they're gonna help you in the long run. The short-term stuff, it's a fad. And then the last one, which I thought was just simply amazing, avoid the technology bandwagon, which isn't good for us in the security space sometimes, right? Because it's all about the technology bandwagon
Yeah,
for
and
us.
us as a podcast company too. That's
Yeah,
it's
yeah. I'm not
opposite
sure
of
I.
our strategy. Yeah, I'm not sure I quite. I can see his point because we've been down this road. You adopt technology and it doesn't work out, and there is a cost to that. But I think it kind of plays into his strategy about betting on a few things. And I think one thing, especially for us and a lot of companies, is sometimes you got to make a bet on technology and choose the right ones. And that gives you a significant competitive advantage, in my opinion. Um, and that's applicable to anyone who's listening in a number of different roles, right? A lot of us that are listening to the show, your job is to acquire new technology to make your business more secure, more efficient, more resilient, and you got to make bets, basically.
Yeah. He doesn't have a smartphone. He doesn't have a computer in his office. He avoids technology. I'm not sure that a lot of
Yeah.
our leadership listening today can actually do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to bring in article number 2 to kind of tie off a little bit on that one, which we'll hit here in a second. But I just thought it was a very interesting article to read, to really learn some insights from just one of the best investors and one of the best companies out there in the market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what was your
All right.
balance to that?
Yeah. So
Technology.
I figured if we have to adopt some level of the technology bandwagon, we use computers, we use our smartphones. What are some of the tips and tricks to being present and staying attentive at work? Because this technology can be distracting.
Mm-hmm.
It creates a distraction. So a few tips in this article that talks about how to stay present and avoid those distractions. And number 1 was always keep your phone on silent. I wish everybody would do this for me because I think this is a great one. By keeping your phone on silent, it's not disrupting people around you, but more importantly, it allows you to ignore it a little easier sometimes. Except for when Paul's calling, I have to answer it even though it's on silent. But I mean, we get a lot of garbage phone calls. I do.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah. So my spam calling is off the charts. So much so that my next phone, and I may even preempt that and get a second phone, is going to have a different number that I just give out to people and hope that helps with the problem. But as you know, the phone calls are out of control, and that's where I disagree with this article. I do agree, keep your phone on silent, but my strategy was opposite. They say wear an analog watch. I like wearing a smartwatch. Of course, this is the day that I forget to put on my smartwatch. All year, I've been good till today, because I can get rid of some of my alerts if I'm always getting them on my phone, right? I can look and see and be like, yep, that's crap, very quickly on my watch, and get notified if my phone's on silent of something important that I might need to attend to, such as if Matt calls or texts me, it says that text message was from Matt, probably something I want to go read and respond to, right? But my emails I also have on there as well. And a lot of them like, yep, nope, don't need to go check my email anytime soon because I'm reading through the subject lines on my watch, while I'm in a meeting or doing a show or in between things. I'm at the coffee and I'm like, yep, nope. But when I do see something and I'm like, oh, I got to respond to that one, it was my watch that told me, it gave me that indicator. So I have a different strategy now for that as I revamped and upgraded my smartwatch I bought over a year ago. And I've been really liking it. It's a Huawei Android smartwatch. I like it.
I think the reason they pointed this one out was that by looking at that watch, it can distract you, and now you go into that rabbit hole of going through emails. You use it for more productivity. The point in the article was if you don't want to get distracted, then don't wear a smartwatch, wear an analog watch so you can look at the time without looking at your phone, because that's my analog watch is sitting over there. I didn't put it on today, but I don't wear a smartwatch. I wear an analog watch because if I'm out and about and I pull my phone out of my back pocket, Lauren is ready to kill me.
Yep.
So I use the analog watch to check time so I don't pull out the phone because she's going to give me a bunch of grief if I pull that phone out of my pocket. So I do it for the opposite reason.
Yeah. And, I think those around me, wife included, with the smartwatch, they know I'm paying attention to their alerts. In other words, if I'm not trying not to look at my phone, if my wife texts me, I can see this, my wife that texted me. And again, I use it to help prioritize. I try not to do too much on my watch where it would become a distraction was my strategy. And having revived it after not wearing it for almost a year, I really like it. And the software got much better. I mean, I had to go through it was during break that I took the time to go through the series of updates of all the apps in the phone and everything. And it took a while for it to get there. And I like it. The battery life is great. And it helps me track some of the fitness things too. So.
True. Couple other tips here. I like selectively configure your noisy apps for notifications. Again,
Yeah,
I
it's
get in
big.
trouble every time I pull out my phone to look at the little bzzzt that came
Hmm.
across as a notification. So kind of tone those down to the ones that are important. The reiteration of use a calendar for everything.
Hmm.
Paul and I use our calendars for everything. I just told my wife last night, I said, if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. It's just, I
Yep, I
have to
agree.
operate that way.
Hmm.
And then the last one was interesting. Uh, record tasks and follow-ups with things. He mentions a technology. We don't use things. We use HubSpot for all of our task tracking, all of our
Hmm.
follow-up activities. That's what Paul and I use as part of our daily activities. But the point here is use something to track those follow-ups and those reminders.
Hmm.
You need a system. I don't know what things is. I've never used it.
Yeah, I
Paul and I
might
use
check it out.
HubSpot.
I'm HubSpot's very. I try and keep it sales focused for me, um, and I've been trying to use Evernote to track some of those other things. I may check out things as an alternative, as I've never been overly impressed with Evernote, and that's just me personally. I know some people use it very effectively, but in along those lines, one of my tasks recently was to stand up an internal documentation server, and we settled on a wiki, and we used MediaWiki. And you know what was the deciding factor was that everyone knows how to use it, because that's what our wiki is for Security Weekly. There was zero training involved, and everyone latched onto it. And when it comes to project management, which is kind of similar to things, I used whatever free one I could find, because I don't think feature parity wise they're all that different. And Dan largely agreed with my assessment on that too. So we did use Orange Scrum, and we are testing that. And of course, Dan immediately found, well, if we want this feature, we got to pay for it, which is fine, and it's an important feature to have Gantt charts. But just project tracking, I didn't have a good system to track the various teams' projects and tasks. And then for GitHub, for developers, it's built right into GitHub. That's what we're using. So I've recently, this is actually in my recent project list, have found very cost-effective, almost free ways to do this, to track your tasks and documentation. So, because you can spend a lot of
Always.
money. I mean, I think we might have talked about it before, right? $5 to $15 per user per month, times however many users you have, times however many cloud apps you need, starts to add up after a while. So, yeah, there's some interesting business decisions behind that.
Yes, very much so. Especially as you have to put together a budget and a plan and make sure we hit it, right, Paul?
Right. Yeah. And to that end, Matt, free is not necessarily free, right? Like, we had to spend some time to set those things up, and we'll spend time maintaining them. So you have to look at all of your costs, budget being very important, of course, but put a value on your time. We've talked about this on the show as well. And I think very much this is what the past two articles have been alluding to, is that your time is money, essentially. And so you have to manage your time and tasks, and what you're implementing yourself, and what maybe you're outsourcing accordingly.
Yeah, so that's a great dovetail into this next article I want to cover, which is the creative difference between multitasking
Mm-hmm.
and multi-focus. Again, for people who think I can't multitask because I can't do more than one thing at a time. Actually, the article says you can multitask and you should multitask. Your brain can multitask, but it cannot multi-focus. And if you read down into the article, it talks about the way to get creative and to find solutions to problems. Multitasking actually helps, because the subconscious, as you're multitasking, you're doing stuff, your subconscious is kicking in. It's collecting information. It may not be relevant at the time because you're not focused on a specific problem, but because you're multitasking and your brain is processing data from multiple sources, it actually helps you be creative and solve problems when you are focusing on specific problems, which I thought was a really interesting way to think about this. Is the human brain can multitask, it
Mm-hmm.
just can't multi-focus. But to improve solutions and creativity, multitasking actually helps you.
Hmm. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's a very interesting read for anybody who wants to take a look. It's in our wiki.
For whatever
Your
reason,
gut,
it
yeah.
reminded me I need to keep a notepad by on the nightstand because I had a great idea and now I can't remember what it was last night in the middle of the night.
It's one of the tips actually in here is always have a recording device
Yeah,
to
it's so
write
true.
down ideas, because your brain will focus on things at different times, and then when it pops into your head, you should write it down. So yes, you need your little
which is
recording
difficult
device.
in the shower. You need an audio recording device in the shower. Actually, I think you can use Amazon devices to do that. I think you can take a note. Yeah.
We're gonna get to that point
Mhm.
because that's some of the interesting technology articles for this week. That the virtual assistant. We'll get there in another article or two, but that may be a way for you, Paul.
Mm.
All right, your gut instinct is usually wrong. I
I don't know
about this one. I really don't. I mean, this one is trying to it's done a survey and it's trying to understand people's gut instincts and how to read people's emotions, whether they're right or wrong. Okay, I get it, gut instincts by themselves, but I tend to have some gut instincts that with some research and information typically come out pretty right. So I'm not sure I fully agree with this article, but I thought it was an interesting one for people to think about as you're trying to understand the emotions of people. Sometimes your initial gut instinct on what you're seeing is not really true. I've gone through lots of communication training courses over my career, and you try to look for different signs. I don't know. My gut instinct sometimes is right. So we'll see. It's an interesting one. All right, let's talk about technology a little bit in the workplace. So one of the articles here from Computer Weekly is expanding the boundaries of the digital workplace. I think we're going to see a lot of this in 2019 and beyond, how organizations are going to continue to look to expand beyond. And it starts with the simple premise, and I've been saying this for years. The perimeter is gone. Your employees are not behind a wall anymore. And so things like VPNs and other things, aren't as important necessarily as you look at how do you enable this new digital workplace environment. But it does talk about other tools that are going to become important. We do a lot of stuff over things like Zoom and GoToMeeting and other sources. We've got lots of mobile devices that are becoming predominant versus, maybe a PC, right? So the article does talk about some of the things you're going to have to really embrace as you kind of extend out and expand out in this new digital workplace. So interesting read. It talks through some different technologies. I won't get into a bunch of them, but I thought it was good for people who have a remote workforce or expanding more remote workforce. These are some things you'll have to look at to make them effective in that role.
Cool.
Let's see. Delivering first-class digital user experience is a big CIO goal in 2019. I think this is kind of a no-brainer. Digital transformation and where we're seeing application development, both at the web and the mobile side, digital experience will be important. And so CIOs have this as a big goal for them this year. We've talked about some of the skill sets in 2019 around artificial intelligence and user experience, and these sorts of skill sets are going to stay important, I think, as we go through this digital transformation. But the last two articles I really wanted to talk about is the virtual assistants on the rise in the workplace. So Paul, to your point, I need that recording device when I'm in the shower to get that new idea. Gartner ran a study and said it expects to see these new business-focused virtual assistants rise over the next few years, up to the point where it would be like 25% by 2021. So a couple years from now, we will be using these virtual kind of assistants in our daily business activity.
That's interesting.
It might help you with your video capture.
Well, I don't think you want video capture when I'm in the shower.
No,
I mean, maybe some people
audio
do.
Capture.
But...
audio capture.
Definitely just audio from the shower.
Yeah, definitely just audio. Yeah, we don't want to see that anywhere near the public internet.
This is true.
All right, with that, that's the end. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week on Business Security Weekly.